So oftentimes I find that when people decide to make the move to their next home, they believe the option available to them is to sell their existing home to buy their next home. However, there is another option, and it's something that I want you to seriously consider because of all the regrets I have, real estate wise at least. Selling my first 2 personal residences are 2 of my biggest regrets. So stay tuned today because I think that you should seriously consider keeping your current home and looking at renting it out. But there's some stipulations to that I want to go over first. So stay tuned and let's get into it. I'm going to preface this with, again, this is nowhere near investment advice. I don't know you or your situation necessarily, so be sure to be getting advice from the pros before you make any major financial decisions for you and your family. But this is my take on it. And keep in mind too that I work in real estate. I deal in it every day. I am comfortable in it. I know what a good deal is. I know what the risk is. I know what the reward is. And I know the players and everything, right? So I'm very comfortable in this, but if this is uncomfortable for you and you don't know if you're ever going to feel that it is comfortable, don't do it. Like, there's many other ways to invest your money. So again, we all have to do what's right for us. So, and that depends on you and your level of risk tolerance and your comfortability. So without further ado, I'm going to get into the pros and cons of keeping your current home and renting it out versus selling it. So the first one and probably most obvious one is really financial considerations. So when you're selling, you get immediate cash. You get that cash outlay. Well, I say you get it, but if you are buying another home, a lot of the time you don't even see that cash. It's just put into the new mortgage, so you might not see that cash. But essentially, that money is now attributed to your name toward a lower monthly mortgage payment on your new home too. Alternatively, depending on you and what you want to do, maybe you look at that cash as another opportunity to invest. It depends on you and your situation. Another financial consideration when selling is that so you're not as exposed to the real estate market. Yes, you do still have a new residence that you are living in that is going to ride that market, but you're limited to just how risky that market is. Also, with selling, you save those emergency expenses. So think of the time you've been living in your own home and you've had to call a plumber to address something, or a leaky toilet, all the things that can go wrong. It's almost always plumbing. I don't know why, but you do not have to have capital set aside in case of emergencies for this other property. Steady rental income, of course, assuming that you have a good tenant and they are paying their rent diligently. It can provide you with straight, solid source of secondary income. It can be especially advantageous if your property is in a super desirable location. There are locations in Winnipeg right now that are getting crazy rents, and depending on when you bought, there might be huge opportunity there. Another financial consideration that goes with renting is there are some taxable benefits. Now, this is not my area of expertise, but I can tell you from working with a really good accountant here in Winnipeg that there are a number of taxable benefits. And I do want to say my accountant is a very responsible individual, but he points out things like depreciation and other things that wouldn't have necessarily occurred to me not having that tax background. So there are taxable benefits that are quite substantial. Renting too, I'm going to talk in the next section a little bit about appreciation, but I also want to talk about forced appreciation here. So forced appreciation is just essentially what it sounds like when you force that appreciation upwards. So how you do that is you invest into the property. Essentially, what you are doing is you are investing into the property. So say you're updating the kitchen, updating the bathrooms, making the place more spiffy, but now you can charge more rent as long as the numbers make sense. Don't go putting huge cash outlays if the numbers don't make sense, of course. But when you start getting more rent as well, the property also increases in value. So that's not an option you have when you're looking at like stocks, right? Where there's no option to force appreciation in a stock. So number 2 area I want you to go over is the long-term investment goals. So does having rental properties look right for your portfolio, or does your portfolio look like something else? So let's talk about that. Selling provides you with that liquidity that you might want. So if you want your portfolio to be of stocks, then that cash is freed up to provide capital for other investments, whether it be your next property or what. Or funding a retirement account. It's all up to you what you do with those funds. Selling also allows for a little bit more simplified finances, right? So you don't have to do the books for properties or multiple properties depending on how you structure your rental business. And fewer properties essentially just means simpler financial management. If you are good at investing, this money might be better parked somewhere else. Renting your home out can be a long-term wealth building play as your property appreciates over time and your tenants pay down your mortgage. So keep in mind, they are paying down your mortgage, not you. And then diversification. Owning rental properties can diversify your investments. So if you're already heavily on one side and you want to diversify a little bit, real estate is a pretty solid investment in my opinion. And then you're spreading your risk over a different asset class. Again, not investment advice, get the advice from the pros. Another factor you want to look at is market conditions. So selling, a favorable market is going to be that of a seller's market. So if you're currently at the height of the market, things are selling, there's bidding wars, people are getting more than they should, in your opinion, yeah, it might be more attractive to look at selling. You also might want to look at selling if you feel the market is hot like that, but your house is not in the most desirable of areas. So an area that might be trickier to sell in if the market were to experience a downturn, because those properties are going to be more difficult anyways to obtain a decent rent for. It might not be the right property to rent out. Keeping it as rental though, if it's a buyer's market, definitely hold it. Buyer's markets have not lasted very long in Winnipeg at all, so I would personally hold on to that property and wait for a better market. Of course, it really depends on your plans. If we're talking still a very short horizon, then we might want to revisit that. But in general, buyer's market, I don't see the harm in holding the property to rent. Another market condition you want to look at is current market rates. So if the market is down, if you're in more of a buyer's market, a lot of the time we do see rents, I don't want to say come down because they don't really come down much in Winnipeg ever, but stabilize and not see that growth or appreciation that you might want to see, then you might want to look at it too. And throwing it back to the selling consideration too is the area. Are you in a super rentable area that's super desirable, that people will pay a premium for rent? That's another market condition you really want to consider. The fourth factor is property management. So if you sell, you don't have to deal with that. You sell that property, you are no longer worried about it anymore. It is in the hands of someone else. It's less stressful, it's less dirty, and you don't have to worry about those calls in the middle of the night. Renting, on the other hand, does involve landlord duty. So we're talking property maintenance, screening tenants, addressing tenant concerns, maybe not the most ideal of situations. Also, it involves knowing the rules. Do you know landlord tenancy legislation in Manitoba? If you don't, you're definitely going to want to familiarize yourself with it before you even delve into the process. As a caveat to this, keep in mind too that you can choose to manage the property yourself, but there are plenty of property managers and good ones here in Winnipeg that I can recommend if you need. That can take that stress off of you. So I know that for us, with our rentals and our arrangements, what we do essentially is we connect them with the managers. They're all in a limited company, so the tenants don't even know who owns the properties. They call the property manager direct. The property manager handles everything. There's a limit. I believe we have a $300 account for each of the houses, and essentially If there's a problem that can be fixed at or under $300, they don't even call us or notify us of the problem. They just go and fix it and let us know we need to reimburse the account, the next rent roll, and then they give us the invoices, but they're not bothering us daily with it. And then of course, if it's more than $300, then they do get us involved and they send us some quotes and give us options, sort of thing. So there are ways to kind of remove the stress from your life. However, there are people that are going to stress about their properties regardless. So if you're one of those people, you always have to look at the psychological aspects of it too. Do you essentially still at the end of the day want to be the landlord? Factor number 5 is also personal preference. So for me personally, one of the things I get hung up on, and when I say I regret selling these first 2 properties of mine, is there was some emotional attachment to them. I do miss those properties and the memories that were made in those properties. And I also think oftentimes that at least one of them would have been really good for retirement. So when Logan and I want to downsize, that we have this nice little bungalow that we know the full history of and we're comfortable with. But I digress. Maybe it'll come for sale again someday soon and I can buy it back. But really, when it comes to personal preference, you really need to consider your future plans. For instance, are you going to be staying in the city for much longer? A lot of people do manage rentals from far away here. However, if you have gotten used to being close to your rentals, is it something you're going to be comfortable with when you're far away? Of course, financial goals, which we've talked about a little bit, and your willingness to manage a rental property. But yeah, sometimes people hold on to their properties for not the most practical of reasons. Not every real estate decision is incredibly pragmatic in nature. So if you're not quite ready to let it go, maybe try it as a rental for a bit. I see no harm in it, but again, you got to get the right information at the right time. So be sure to be talking to the pros that you trust. And if ever you want an opinion on it, reach out to my team. My team and I do specialize in finding rentals for people. So we know the rental market, but we also know if you're keeping your home, what it could rent for, kind of thing, so that you can run the numbers. Just let us know. Or if you want to delve further into rental properties, also reach out, because my team specializes in that. In fact, I have a few really good agents that often bring me rental property options. So yeah, again, I'm Jennifer Queen with the Jennifer Queen team and Remax Professionals here in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Thanks so much for watching today, guys. I don't know if there was any value in this, but I know that if I regretted selling one of my properties instead of keeping it as a rental, there's probably people out there that do as well. So be sure to let me know in the comments section below. I enjoy reading those. And if you like this video, again, hit that like button, hit the subscribe, because we're coming out with a ton of content this year. So take care. Enjoy building those real estate portfolios, everybody. Bye.